Hey, this is Matt Urtz, the Madison County Historian. We are continuing our interview series during the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, we are very lucky to have the Hamilton Central School District Superintendent, William Dowsland, speaking with us. Thank you for talking to us, Superintendent Dowsland. Talk a little bit about when COVID-19 kind of appeared on your radar and how you guys started to look at what might happen.
Sure. So thanks for having me, Matt. I appreciate it. It was mid-March, around the 13th, that we started having some initial conversations around the possibility of this COVID-19 pandemic hitting our area. We talked internally with our district superintendent and our regional superintendents. We immediately started having conversations about the what ifs, what it might look like, what it would mean for school districts, what it would mean for instruction going forward, and then the county executive's executive order on March 17th, closing schools. And we've been working on 2-week increments with the governor until his recent executive order, which has closed schools for the remainder of the academic year.
Okay. When it became apparent that schools are going to close, talk about what you guys did with teachers, what you did with parents, and then the community in response, because I know you had some partnerships with Colgate to help folks and stuff like that. Talk about how this is a big pie and you're kind of trying to put all the ingredients in together.
Sure. So when we got word that we were going to be closed for the 2-week period, we immediately mobilized our entire teaching staff, our support staff, and we hit the ground running. We immediately started having meetings about what is that going to look like to continue instruction for our students? What is that going to look like for meals for our families that need nutritional assistance? What is that going to look like for childcare, for our essential workers? Those are all questions that we had to have answers to and plans for. And we immediately mobilized everybody. And I can't thank enough our teaching staff, our support staff, everybody involved in our learning community came together, rallied together, put together a plan immediately to deliver instruction. Within a 3-day period, the educational world was turned upside down, and we were able to deliver instruction that was equitable, that allowed for access for every one of our students, because we had students that did not have internet connectivity. And we immediately reached out to Colgate University and J.S. Hope and Naranjan Darvan, who was their IT director, and J.S. Hope was their vice president for Colgate University, were gracious enough to give us 15 hotspots that allowed for all of our families to then have connectivity. So when we moved to this next phase of continuity of instruction, it was virtual. So we moved out of having hard packets for all of our families to a virtual learning environment and platform for every one of our families throughout our district. And without Colgate's help with that, we would not be in the situation where we are today, where every one of our students are able to have a continuity of instruction that's virtual.
When the schools formally closed, talk about, so you talked about you did these 2-week increments in the adaptation. Talk about in the moment how you guys kind of do this on the fly. And now that schools, we're talking on May 5th, talk about now that schools are formally closed, you guys have some kind of ending, but now moving forward maybe how you can plan at least for the rest of this year.
We do. And, we support the governor's decision for the health and safety of our students. Obviously, it's not the news we wanted. We want kids back in the building. We want to have face-to-face interactions with our teachers and students. However, for the safety of our students and staff and our community as a whole, we support the decision. However, it's been challenging. It's been challenging for our students. It's been challenging for our teaching staff. It's been really challenging for our families. We have families that are both parents are home or single parents are home, working from home, trying to take care of their own family life, and then having to deliver or help deliver instruction, to their children with the support of our teachers. It's been really challenging and difficult, but we have done it, and we've done it well. When people ask, what do you want to say to our families? And I just want to say thank you for being resilient. Thank you for being patient and understanding as we move through this, because it changes by the hour and by the day. And, we are working on these 2-week increments. And now that we have some clarity that we will be closed for the remainder of the year, it allows us to do some further long range planning and put together, to really look at our virtual learning plan and get some feedback from our parents and from our teachers on what's working, what's not working, how can we adjust to meet their needs and to make this less stressful. The last thing we want to do is overwhelm families right now, because it's stressful enough and there's enough anxiety and challenges within everyone's home life. And then when you throw home instruction on top of that, it's really difficult. And we've always been cognizant since we first got the announcement that we were going to be closed, to really balance that home life and school work, those both ends of that spectrum, and really being cognizant of people's home life situations and the social emotional health of our students.
Thank you. Talk about, you kind of referenced the railing that's happened. Talk a little bit about where you guys think you've done really well and where you look at it and go, okay, we can get better at this. We're going to get better at this. Talk about both of those, where you think you've done well and where you think you can improve.
I think we've done a really good job communicating with our families, being explicit of what's expected, from our teachers and from our families. And where we can improve is that balance. We have some families, and some of our students who are really high achievers that want more instruction. They want it to be more rigorous. And we have other families that are just, the pure overwhelming anxiety that has come with this, that it's hard for them, and they want to, kind of step back a little bit and slow down a little bit. So it's that balance of meeting the needs of all of our learners at very different levels. So I think as we navigate this and move further through this and get some really good feedback from our families, how do we balance meeting the needs of every student and every learner is really the challenge.
If the students return in the fall, hopefully they do, how is the school going to work to provide a safe, comfortable learning environment for the students? Because that's going to be a big concern. You have lots of kids in small rooms. How do you especially if we're still in the social distancing world, how do you make sure in things like cafeterias and all that kind of fun stuff, how do you make sure, they're going to be safe?
Well, and that's what we're working on now. Part of the governor's executive order is to have a reopening plan that has social distancing protocols and procedures, disinfecting. So we are looking at every aspect of our operation and our delivery of instruction right now on how to ensure that our students, our faculty and staff are all safe if we are to reopen in the fall. We're looking at temperature scanning devices. We are looking at disinfecting protocols. We are looking at, the possibility of multiple bus runs. We are looking at the possibility of multiple, varying schedules for our students. Everything is on the table right now as far as an operational standpoint to ensure the health and safety of everybody involved in our learning community. And that's a huge task. And, when you look at that, there's costs associated with all of that. And
my next question.
The budgets are not good right now.
Yeah.
The state is looking at a $15 billion shortfall. And the governor has talked about a 20% reduction in foundation aid for schools. So how do you meet the needs of our learners? How do you deliver instruction to meet the needs of every learner? How do you deliver social distancing protocols? All of these unfunded mandates with limited budgeting resources. That's another real challenge for districts, and we talk regionally as superintendents, how do we do that? So we have a terrific superintendents group that we have conference calls every morning, and we're collaborating on best practices, what each district is doing. How do we share resources, working through our local BOCES to try to come up with some shared resources to deliver a safe, equitable learning environment if we are to open in the fall.
Okay. Last question. Do you think COVID-19 is going to have a permanent impact on the classroom setting and change kind of how kids are taught in the future?
I certainly think it could have. It's so hard to predict, and that's something that we have tried not to do here, with all of our messaging and our communication, is just strictly stick to the facts and not assume, not to make, presumptions on what could be or what if. All of our communication to our faculty and to our families has just been based on the facts of the situation as it is at that time. So to say that I think it's going to have a permanent effect, I don't know. I think it's going to have an immediate effect, is in the sense that if we are to return in the fall, we're going to have some social distancing practices and protocols in place. Whether that's masking, whether that's disinfecting, whether that's separating students within the classrooms. How do we do that? Those are all things that we're working through right now, and those are big challenges. I think the immediate impact will be real if we are to open in the fall. Whether it will have a lasting long-term moving forward for years to come, I just can't answer that.
I think one of the things I think about is I go through when I grew up, I was in college when September 11th happened. And
Sure.
if you see something, say something became a permanent part of our consciousness. I think every kid from here on forward is going to know how to wash their hands and how to use hand sanitizer. And that might be something that comes out of it is we start just something as simple as that. I've heard people say handshaking is going away, but more so, how many videos have we all seen on how to wash our hands? And
Sure.
I have hand sanitizer in my car than I've probably had in my entire life, period.
Yeah, and I think those little things, Matt, will have a lasting impact. I think the hand washing, the handshaking or lack thereof, the conversations where, you are distanced from the person you're having a conversation with. I think those could have long-lasting societal impacts,
Yeah.
which will trickle down into our schools for sure. So I think, when you talk about those things, absolutely, those will have lasting impacts within our school learning environment.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. Is there anything else you'd just like to say to the folks of the Hamilton School District?
I would just like to say thank you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your flexibility. Thank you for your support. We're in this together. We will get through this together. And our motto is to stay HCS strong. And just thank you. And thank you, Matt, for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you again. Hopefully, maybe we'll talk again down the line, hopefully with much more positive terms in front of us.
That I would love to talk about. The positives would be terrific.
All right. We will talk to you soon.
Thank you.